Hey everyone, it's Lexi. In today's video I'm going to be doing my June wrap-up. So I read a total of 3 books this month. I'm filming this the weekend before June ends, so like the weekend before this video comes up. So I probably will finish another book by the end of June just because of my work schedule now. It's easier to film on the weekends. So yeah, the books were kind of all over the place. I did document one in my reading vlog, which I'll have linked up in the cards if you want to go and check that out. But yeah, most of them were historical fiction and then one murder mystery. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first book that I ended up reading this month was The Kitchen House by Kathleen Grissom, and so this was one that took me 3 weeks to finish. I had a lot going on at the end of May. My grandma is sick, so we had to go back to Canada to visit her, and it was just a rough week, and so I came back after that and I didn't pick up a book for a week. I got really sick, and then I just didn't feel like reading, and then when I started work I finished it that weekend in my reading vlog. And so there are some really high and low points for me reading this, and I think that's probably why it kind of took away from my reading experience. And so there was one part where I was halfway through and I was like, I don't know if I want to stick through with this. It's getting really boring and all of that stuff. So it just really I really wanted to give up on this book, but I was like, there's so many good reviews on Goodreads, so I was like, I'll stick it through till the end. And basically the premise of it is it follows a girl named Lavinia who lives on a 19th century tobacco plantation in Virginia, and she kind of was taken into kind of service when she was kind of orphaned on a boat over from Ireland. So she is white, surrounded by African American slaves, and it just kind of describes her experience being part of these two worlds. So the concept was really interesting, and it wasn't until like the last 100 pages, like I honestly could not put it down, and I talked about this in my reading vlog, like I honestly could not put it down. It was just so good, and I think because I had so much going on that I just wasn't really in the mood, so I think that played a part. But I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. It ended up really surprising me in the end, and it was just really good and a lot of fun. It was just really good, and it was very different from kind of the historical fiction time period that I read, so I really enjoyed kind of seeing that. And it's similar to The Help as well, where it kind of showcases the racial issues that were part of the past but are still very relevant today. So yeah, like I said, if you're wanting to pick this up, just give it a chance. It does have some slow parts, but it was really worth it at the end. So next I ended up reading The Aviator's Wife by Melanie Benjamine, and this is one that's been on my shelf for a while now, so I was very happy that I finally finished it. And again, this is like The Kitchen House, where I had some points where I was just like, I really just wanted to give up on the book, but I stuck it through and I really ended up enjoying it. So it follows the Lindenbergs, who Charles Lindenberg was the first man to fly across the Atlantic solo, and his wife Anne, and it kind of documents their kind of marriage and how they met and like everything afterwards. But it's a historical fiction story based around kind of facts, so I don't know how closely it follows their actual story, but again, this was like I said, I had some struggle getting into it, and I think part of the reason why is that the characters are so unlikable. Charles is just like a total jerk. We later learn as history unfolds kind of in the real world that he had 7 other children with different women and outside of his family, and he had a lot of very anger issues and all of this stuff. So he's not very likable, and Anne, I felt kind of just like the helpless victim. She was just kind of there, and they did have some horrific things that happened to them and that were very much publicized, and it was just very, like, I can only imagine what it would have been like. But again, they weren't very likable, and I think kind of the purpose of it was to show that heroes are not always golden, and I think the message in there was that. And so again, like, I struggled through the middle section, but once kind of the kind of kidnapping happens, that's when I really got invested in the story. And again, like I said, it was an interesting story because I didn't really like any of the characters, but it was something I couldn't put down, and I really got invested. I read like the last 200 pages on the weekend, and I was just in love with it. So I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars, or like kind of 4-ish. But yeah, it was interesting, and if you're kind of into that stuff, I would recommend this book. And so lastly, this was one that I had on my shelf for a while again, and I was really excited that I picked it up, and I really ended up liking it, and it is My Sister's Grave by Robert Dugoni. And it follows a woman named Tracy who 20 years prior, her sister was kidnapped and disappeared and like assumed to be murdered. And so now that she is a detective, she's kind of made it her life goal to kind of everything that happened with the trial previously. She doesn't feel like the man who was convicted was the actual killer. She feels like there was something else going on. So she made it her life mission to kind of collect all of this information about this, like her sister's disappearance, and then 20 years later when her sister's remains disappears, that kind of sets everything into motion. So it takes off from there, and this book was so good. I haven't read a murder mystery like this in a really long time, so I was really happy, and I didn't realize that this is part of a series, which is always good as well. So that's something to add to my wish list. But yeah, I was really into this. It was really good. It has part of a trial, which I thought was done really well, and then we also get some flashbacks in here as well, which I thought was a lot of fun, and just kind of, they were kind of seamlessly woven into the storyline, so it didn't feel like kind of we were in the present and then we were in the past. It didn't feel so stop and go. So I really enjoyed that, and just getting to be a part of this and kind of getting introduced to a new kind of murder mystery series, because that's like, I think, probably my favorite. I prefer it over fantasy series, that's for sure. So I really like this. Tracy was such a strong character, and I did feel some disconnect from her at some times, but I feel like because this is the first book and we're just kind of, this is kind of focusing on her sister's murder, but hopefully in the future books that we'll get to kind of see more of her and get to learn more about her, and Dan as well. So there are so many shocking twists and turns, and I just really love this book. It was so much fun. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It was really good. So that's it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these books and what your thoughts and opinions are of them and all of that fun stuff. So yeah, like I said, I probably have one more book that'll probably be that I would read in June that I will include in my July wrap-up, so keep your eyes peeled for that. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye guys.